became a fan of when she toasted us with a fake margarita or cocktail online. I just became a big fan. They say it takes a village to raise a child. Katherine Klimitas, I knew that. Klimitas would argue that sentiment is applicable well into adulthood, and without a good support system, we are less likely to live up to our fullest potential. Furthermore, due to her genetic bone disease, she knows firsthand what it's like to have to rely on those around her to complete tasks that are generally insignificant for able-bodied people. Listen as Katherine shares stories about her most influential mentors and caretakers. From the time she was a toddler, all the way up to 35-year-old business owner she is today. Her life is proof that we truly are better together. Please welcome Katherine Klimitas with her speech, Mentors, the Creators of Success Through Togetherness.
So when you think of the word mentor, who is the first person you think of? Think of that person in your mind real quick. Maybe it's a parent, or maybe it's a teacher from grade school or high school, or somebody who guided you through a new job, or maybe it's somebody in this room. I believe that everyone has something that they can give to society, something that they can contribute to their community. But the trick is finding that something and actually doing it. But if you have a mentor, someone to push you along and guide you down your life's path, sometimes it's easier to find that something and live a meaningful life. So let's think about that person who popped into your head a minute ago. Why do you see them as a mentor? You see them as a mentor because they did something that you admire. In some way, I'm sure different for everyone, their impact set you up for success in reaching your personal goals and following your dream. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about a few of the mentors I've been lucky enough to have in my life. But while I'm doing that, I want you to think about what you can offer to teach someone as a mentor. And we're going to take this a little bit further than Katie's speech, because I want you to think about what skills or what knowledge you have that might be valuable to someone else. Now many of you are thinking, I got nothing. I mean, believe me, been there, done that. But I promise you, you're wrong. Everyone has something to give. So I want you to humor me here for a minute. Everybody's seen the sticky notes in the middle of their table, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. If you think of something that you can give somebody, that you can share with somebody, some knowledge, a skill, whatever it is, write it on a sticky note in front of you. It can be, if you're a doctor and you can share medical knowledge. It can be sharing your knowledge of public speaking. Everybody in here can do that. It can be putting together a car. It can be anything. Organizing your pantry, which whoever can do that, please see me after the talk. If you think of anything, write it on a sticky note in front of you. You can have as many as you want, but unlike some of this conference, this is not a contest.
Do we put our name on it, Katherine?
What?
Do we put our name on it?
Yeah, yes. But yeah, go ahead and put your names on them. So, let's go back to that person you thought of in the beginning. Raise your hand if you thought about a parent or a grandparent or a family member as that mentor, right? Okay, last one. That seems logical, right? Your parents should be your first teachers. they have the responsibility of helping you learn how to walk, or roll in my case, and talk, and how to become basically an actual functional human being. And if they do a good job, even as an adult, you still look up to them. And you still turn to them for advice when you need it. Now, my mother has always been there for me. I would not say that she necessarily gave me specific advice on a daily basis, but she taught me how to be a fundamentally good person, and she taught me how to advocate for myself when I needed to as I got older. She's the one that got me started on my artistic journey, and she gave me my first watercolor set when I was 5. She taught me that even though I had physical challenges that my friends didn't, I could still make something of myself through my art. She continually enrolled me in art classes at school, and then art-based summer camps, and she even hired private art teachers to teach me in between. She was there when I felt left out because I had too many broken bones to go to school. And she continually reminded me that change is constant. Bad days come and go, and she encouraged me to lean into my art when I felt like I wasn't good enough. She helped me find my something. Now, my dad passed away about 12 years ago, but he was always willing to bestow advice upon me, even if I didn't want it, and even if it ended up being really bad advice. He wasn't around much when I was young, but as I moved through high school and college, he retired due to needing a double lung transplant, and he was much more present in my life. And although I haven't actually heard my dad's voice in over a decade, I can still hear him giving me his best nuggets of wisdom when I started my business just out of college. You have to spend money to make money. Okay, well, there's a limit to that. True, but there is a limit to that. Just keep throwing that spaghetti up against the wall. Something is bound to stick. But your wall gets really dirty, depending on how much spaghetti you throw at the wall. And you can't help someone who doesn't want to help themselves. And that is perhaps one of the most valuable pieces of advice he's ever given me. And unfortunately, I've not always followed it, but it's a sound piece of advice. And he taught me to make the best decisions I could in the moment, and just to keep showing up and keep doing my best, and eventually something would work out. And it did. The truth be told, and my mom would kill me if she knew I was using this picture right. Truth be told, my parents influenced me the most by leading by example. Both of my parents own their own veterinary practices, and they worked incredibly hard for everything they have. They are 100% responsible for my love of animals. When I started my own art and design business out of college, they were there to help guide me through the process and get a handle on a world that I was introduced to but never really a real part of. And they practiced compassion daily. And they were always willing to help someone less fortunate than themselves. They taught me that life is rarely easy, and opportunities are almost never just handed to you for free. So when they do present themselves, you should try to take them. And aside from having a bad grade or two, which I always went to dad for, never mom, I generally felt like I could turn to them in any situation. And I'm definitely the person I am today because of how they raised me. But like every kid, as I got older, I didn't want to tell my parents everything, right? And I needed someone else to confide in. And who better than my 6th grade science teacher, Miss T, also known as Susan Tillbaum. Miss T is just, as she would say, awesome with a capital A. And yes, it is 25 years later, and I still call her Miss T. First of all, she was one of the best teachers I've ever had in my entire life. I liked science anyway, being the daughter of 2 veterinarians, but she really made me and my entire class want to learn. We studied in textbooks some, but she generally had a more hands-on approach to teaching. We made catapults that were actually called donutapults, but they had to throw a donut into a hula hoop a certain distance, which I won, by the way. We built towers out of popsicle sticks, and it had to hold a certain weight, which I won, by the way. And we dissected multiple frogs, worms, and my personal favorite, owl pellets. Who here knows what an owl pellet is? This is an owl pellet. For those, See, I think this is amazing. For those of you who don't know, an owl pellet is the stuff that owls regurgitate that's indigestible after they've eaten an animal. So it's usually comprised of fur and bone, but sometimes you can find entire skulls in them. It's so cool. Okay, remember, I am the daughter of 2 veterinarians, so I find this super cool. But I digress. Back to Misty. I did love her teaching style, hands down. But what I loved most about her was her heart. Misty was always there to listen when you had a problem, whether it was at school or at home or with your friends or with your parents, didn't matter. And she always had great advice on how to solve it. She showed compassion to every child, and she took the time needed for the ones that needed some extra help. She was actually the girls' sex ed teacher beginning in 6th grade. So as you can imagine, each of us developed an even closer relationship with her at that point. She made us feel like we could tell her anything and everything. And we did, and she would never judge us for it. And you know what? I still feel that way today. Although I don't see her nearly as much as I would like to, I still turn to her when I have a bad day or I just need someone to talk to. She follows me on Facebook and Instagram, and she's always one of the top commenters. And she always has the best, kindest comments on my art, and they make me feel so good. And even though we don't talk much, I know that she will always be there on the sidelines, rooting for me, and that's a comfort that's priceless. So along my art journey, I had a couple of amazing mentors who helped me develop my skills and my process and my style. Although ultimately I settled on watercolor as my medium of choice, when I was young, my parents tried to get me into all kinds of art. That way I got a lot of different experience at a young age. But that also meant that I had a lot of different types of teachers. First, there was Chris Jurisco, also known as Mr. G. Can you see a pattern here in my grade school? Yeah. Okay. So he was the art teacher at my grade school, and your typical artist, totally unorganized, left a trail of destruction and chaos wherever he went, but literally a creative genius. He was my first real exposure to art, and this is the first piece I ever saw when I was 10 that I did with him. And he is actually, it's called All Dogs Go to Heaven. And he is the person that first taught me how to let loose and be creative, which is something I still struggle with sometimes today. As far as becoming a professional artist and running a business, he was no help at all. Not at all. But when it came to making art and being creative, I couldn't have asked for a better first influence. Now, as a preteen, I had a couple of different private art teachers who taught me all different types of media, like sculpture and glass blowing and oil painting. But I never really saw any of these as mentors, per se. I didn't have a lot of them for very long, and although I did learn something from each of them, and some of them are even still my friends today, they just never really hit mentor status. Up until I met Robin. So like many activities, I found that it's easier for me to paint and draw while I'm lying on my side, because I can get into a position that allows my back to rest, and I can rest my arm on my side and paint for longer periods of time. But the problem is that the world looks a lot different when you're lying on your side than it does when you're sitting straight up. So we're going to do a quick exercise. Who here has played heads up sometime? Anybody? Okay. All right, so what I want you to do is you each have 2 pieces of paper in front of you. 2 pieces of computer paper. Okay, and some markers. Pick a marker, make sure it works. Everybody can see a water bottle, right? On your table. You don't have to be able to touch it, you just have to be able to see it, right? A water bottle, a cup, something like that that has a food part in it. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to have you do is I want you to, I'm going to give you like 2-ish minutes. I want you to put your heads down on the table. Lay them on your side. Lay your head on the side. I want you to draw that water bottle. Okay? Do not pick your head up until I say you can. It doesn't matter. It don't matter. Okay, but this isn't about whether or not you can draw. Don't worry about that. It doesn't matter. But just keep your head down. You'll see. This is not about who can draw. Try to at least get a basic outline and then something kind of in the middle. Remember, don't pick your head up. Does everybody feel like you're in school? I know, I'm sorry, it's taking a little while. Y'all can do it. Maybe like another minute or so.
We don't know.
Okay, does everybody have kind of a basic water bottle? Don't pick your hands up. No, don't pick your, I said don't pick your hands up. Okay. All right, okay, flip your drawings over so you can't see them, and then pick your heads up. Okay, now, I want you to do it again, but this time you can sit up and do it. So look at your water bottle again, same view. Same water bottle. Do it again.
Let's see.
Okay, now, I want you to hold up your two drawings next to each other. And look at how different they look. They can both be terrible. It doesn't matter.
They're horrific.
But they're different, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Look like something out of a spaceship.
Yep, hold them up.
Now go with your non-doll
We would actually work better if I used my left hand.
There we go. Perfect. Okay. So you should have one water bottle that's really crooked. And you should have one that's pretty okay. Right?
crooked.
Okay. Well, one can both be crooked, but to different degrees, right? Alright. So Robin, my most influential art-related mentor, would actually lay on the floor with me and see the world as I saw it. And so she helped me learn to what degree to compensate for my unique angle and how to draw accurately. So mine will come out straight if I'm laying down. And I do that automatically now because I learned how to do that, how to fix that when I was 13. She made me practice drawing straight lines without a ruler and perfect circles like these without a compass.
Oh, wow.
Over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And there were days, many days, where I hated it because instead of doing fun things like my friends were on Saturdays, I was stuck doing this for 2 hours. But it turns out that all of that hard work paid off because I know without Robin's lessons, I would not be able to draw like I can today.
Wow.
But even more importantly, in between those technical drawing lessons, Robin taught me some life lessons too. And I can still hear her telling me, and this is what you guys just did. Draw what you see, not what you think you see. So you just drew what you thought you saw, but not really what you saw. And she also taught me that a good painting begins with a good drawing. She taught me that life is not always how it looks at first glance, and that sometimes it's important to take a closer look before you judge. And she also taught me that you have to put in the grunt work if you're going to be successful at anything. So while my friends were off perfecting their various sports moves and going to the mall and doing all those things, I spent a lot of my days as a teenager in my studio drawing circle after circle and line after line, and I learned that art isn't always fun. But then again, nothing really worth doing in life is always fun. Right? I worked hard and it paid off. But Robin and my parents were not the only ones that taught me that hard work will get you further than just talent alone. Enter Ellen. I met Ellen Maverick when I was 14 years old. She was a client of my dad's, and he had just retired due to needing his transplant. Her husband and my dad got along so well, and one afternoon, when I was doing homework, Dad invited them over for a drink and to meet me. Her husband, Dick, had been telling Dad about how Ellen had suddenly taken up jewelry making, and that she was actually pretty good at it. Dad thought that that might be something that I might be interested in. And so before I knew it, he had hired Ellen to teach me. And it's true, Ellen taught me to make jewelry and think creatively and a completely different way than I had in the past. But she taught me so much more than that. Ellen was a teenage mother who was forced to grow up very early when her father died and her mother threw her out. She raised two incredible daughters who grew up, went to college, got married, and had kids of their own. And she did this all by herself. She put herself through college. She has earned multiple degrees. She has reinvented herself more times than I can tell you. She's had 3 husbands. She's worked in insurance sales. She was in the Navy. She became an artist. She worked as a teacher. She sold insurance. And she did whatever she had to do to survive when times were tough. Just try complaining to Ellen. I guarantee you that the first thing she will say is, been there, done that, got that t-shirt. Every time. And then she'll follow it up with, and this too shall pass. I never really realized the enormous impact Ellen has had on my life until relatively recently. Ellen was there through my most formidable teenage years, and she stayed by my side through college graduation and still gives me advice today as an adult. I have laughed with Ellen more times than I can count, but I cried with her too. We've supported each other through sickness, deaths of loved ones, and Hurricane Katrina. Ellen became the person I could talk to about literally anything because she became my first or my most trustworthy friend. Though she doesn't know everything, which she would argue, Ellen knows a whole heck of a lot because she's had a whole heck of a lot of experiences. Is your car broken? Ellen probably knows what that noise is. Is your boyfriend being a jerk? Ellen will tell you what to do with it. Is your dad driving you crazy? Catherine, breathe. You know he means well, but he's a man. I've heard that one more than once. Are you stressed out over work? Catherine, how many times do I have to tell you? Make a list. Got it? Good. Now get to it. Looking back, I appreciate all that Ellen taught me in the jewelry world, but I value those late night phone calls, those home cooked meals, those afternoons at the casino and movie marathons, so much more. I learned a lot from Ellen, and only a very small amount of it was art related. She has always been there, cheering me on, reminding me that Rome wasn't built in a day, and that life constantly changes, even when we don't want to change with it. She is the ultimate realist with the biggest imagination known to man. And like many other people, Ellen has always been a proponent of me pursuing a career in public speaking. I remember having long talks with her as a teenager about how much I should use my disability to my advantage in all aspects of my life. It's hard, especially as a teenager. On one hand, I wanted to earn everything I got, like everyone around me. And I wasn't raised to feel entitled or accept pity. But then Ellen dropped another nugget of wisdom. You use what you got, kid. And I did. In 2019, I attended my first Toastmasters meeting. I attended my first Toastmasters meeting and I met Toastmaster extraordinaire Tina Gilead at one of my art shows a few weeks prior. And she immediately got into recruitment mode. Who knows? Yep. The conversation went like this. Catherine, you have such a unique story. Have you ever thought about pursuing public speaking? Yes. It's just a matter of making the time and even knowing where to start. Well, I can help you start. Come to our next Toastmasters meeting.
I do not sound like
But I think we can all agree that she is that enthusiastic. Okay. I did not make it to the very next meeting, as it was literally the next day. But I did get there eventually, and I'm so glad I did. Tina, AJ, and Chick truly took me under their wing and helped me navigate my very first pathways. With each speech I gave, they taught me the basics. They taught me organization, how to pace myself, and how personal stories add depth into every speech. I found that I became a progressively better speaker, and I started thinking, oh, maybe I could give this public speaking thing a try. If nothing else, it would just be one more string of spaghetti to throw up against the wall. But would it stick? Well, it turns out that it did. Over the past few years, I have been asked to speak about myself and my disability and my business to all types of groups, to business groups, to educators. I've gotten to speak about school inclusion, which is something that's really important to me. I've been able to share my story of persistence and motivation with people from all over the world on platforms that I never dreamed I would be featured on. And every time I got nervous, my Toastmasters mentors were right there to support me. And since I began Toastmasters, it's true that I have become a more confident speaker. But all that confidence has spread to other parts of my life as well. I am more confident in my relationship with my clients and my relationship with my family and my employees. I am more confident in advocating for what I need and what I want, even if it means putting myself out there more than I would like to. I no longer get nervous meeting new people, and I have no problem striking up a conversation with a perfect stranger. But most importantly, Tina, AJ, and Chick taught me that my story is valuable to other people, disability and all. They drove home what Ellen told me over and over all those years ago about using the gifts you were given to get where you want to go. Sharing my disability and all that comes with it isn't shameful. It's true that it may give me a leg up sometimes, but trust me, there have been many moments where it has held me back too. Like it or not, it's a huge part of who I am. And my Toastmasters have helped me use it in a unique and meaningful way. And just like that, I found something else that I could give society. And I learned how to intertwine it with my art. I can spread joy through sharing my story with the world. Now, who has sticky notes in front of them? I'm hoping everybody came up with at least one. Okay, make sure your names are on them. And I want you to make your way over to that set of doors over there and stick them on there. Right now. And while we're doing this, if anybody has any questions, I'd love to answer. Okay, yes, any questions? I'm happy to answer any questions. Yes,
You're taking
yes,
questions?
but,
I have a question.
okay.
Can you maybe tell us a little bit about how do you overcome those moments when you are feeling insecure or like as if like you know you've done it in the past but it's just not at this moment I feel like I can't or I feel like I'm not good enough. What's something that you do to kind of get yourself out of that spot?
Well, I lean on my mentors. That's one of the things I do. You know, I mean, even doing the speech today, how many times, Tina, did I say, oh, I'm so not going to be good. This is not going to be good. And she's like, oh, shush. Yes, you are. You're going to be good. Actually, I think she said, shut up, shut up. She said, you're being ridiculous. It'll be fine. So I do that. But I also have this trick where I think of like the worst case scenario, and I'm like, okay, I've survived the worst case scenario before, and this probably won't be that bad. So, really, can it get worse? Probably not. Hopefully not. So, however it goes, I'll survive, and it'll be fun, and I'll probably learn something, and minimally I'll at least get that out of it. So, you know, I play my own little mind games in my head too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question. People make assumptions about people, the way they look,
Yeah.
the way they act. Whether, you know, people make assumptions of, let's say, a black person or a person with a disability.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that, and how do you deal with it?
Every day. I mean, yes. Yes. So, I get, oh, look at that cute little baby. That was really fun. Or, isn't she just precious? Or, you know, I get those a lot. I also get, do you have a license to drive that thing? And let me tell you, everyone who has used an electric wheelchair has heard it.
Yes.
So don't say it, because we've heard it a million bajillion times, okay? The one that I mean, the thing I probably get the most is staring. And, you know, when kids stare, it's fine, because they're kids, right? They haven't learned how to function without, you know, in a world where people look different than they do, right? But when adults stare at me, I play a staring contest. And I win. Because they end up going, okay. And so they usually just turn around and run away.
Oh my goodness.
It's hilarious. I mean, I have to get some entertainment somewhere, you know? So, yes, I deal with that every day. And
Wow.
I like it when people when people come up to me and ask me questions, you know, because I'm happy to tell them. I'd rather them not make assumptions. You know, I'd rather say, yes, I'm actually a college graduate and I own a business. And, you know, like, I'm not somebody who can't work and can't, you know, function on my own and that kind of thing. So, yes, every day. Okay, so at the end of the session, I want you all to go over there, back over there to those doors, and I want you to read each other's sticky notes, okay? And if you find one that interests you, I encourage you to take it or take a picture of it during the break and try to connect with the person in the room that wrote it. Because who knows? You might find that someone who can teach you that one thing that you've been dying to learn. Maybe you'll learn something completely new. Or maybe you will have the opportunity to share your knowledge with someone and become a mentor yourself. I look back on the many different mentors I've been fortunate to know throughout my entire life. And although they are all very different people, they have a few key attributes. They're all kind caring, compassionate people. They all know what it means to work hard, and they put forth their greatest effort every day. They are there to support their loved ones, and they truly want those around them to succeed without even realizing it. These attributes merge into who they are as people. They become mentors because people like me want to look up to them. In my case, both literally and figuratively. And they do it all by being just who they are, exactly who they are. So thank you to all of the people who have taken the time to mentor me throughout my life. You shaped me into the artist and speaker and person who I was destined to become. I live a meaningful life because you helped me find that something that I can contribute to society and find purpose in my community. I hope that by learning from you and continuing to throw that spaghetti up against the wall, which, by the way, the wall's getting pretty full at this point, that I too can be a mentor to aspiring artists and maybe even public speakers. Remember, it takes a village, and we really are better together.